And entering the building is the one and only Congressman Eliot Engel, the incumbent. Wait, chair 3. Oh, you moving over to 4? Okay.
Yeah.
Turn your mic on. And when they start you off with people before politics, welcome. There you go. There you go.
Welcome.
Please pull the mic to you. It moves. Just talk into the mic. Pull it to you. So welcome to the show. This is your first time on the People Before Politics radio show. How are you, sir?
Good. The first time is the time you always remember.
All right. I need you to pull your mic a little closer.
Okay.
Oh, you're okay. You good. You're good. Let me turn you up a little bit. That's mic 3. Yeah. Okay.
I was saying the first time is the time you always remember.
That's right. Never forget your first time. In so many different ways. So, I got to chat with you a little bit on Friday and a little mix and mingle with Eliot Engel.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier.
And she was talking about you walked up, grandson got to talk to you and take some pictures, and he was very excited about that. Yeah.
I was excited too.
So basically, now can you answer one question because it's been asked a lot? When did they, and why did they move the Democratic primary for your race to June?
That's a good question. New York's the only state that does it this way. The primary used to always be in September for everybody, including me.
Right.
And then the court ruled that the service men and women on the other side of the world in September wouldn't have enough time to answer their ballots for everything to come back in time for the November election. And they ruled that it had to be earlier than September, which made it August, July, or June. They couldn't come up with an agreement in Albany, so the court imposed June. And then a few years later, which is now, the legislature made it in June. The problem with June is we're all alone. Everybody else runs in September.
Right.
So everybody thinks that, don't worry, I'll vote for you in September.
Right.
And the problem with making it in June, they make it the fourth Tuesday in June happens to be the last day of school, or maybe even some of the school districts are already done. People are making their vacation plans, or
Just
some
before
kids
the
are
4th
going
of
to
July,
camp.
right.
Some kids going to camp, 4th of July. So it's really a bad time. And the thing that really concerned me was not so much that I wouldn't win, because, you always want to win, of course.
Right.
But it was that people just wouldn't know to vote.
Right.
And, no one wants to lose, but if everybody votes and you lose, you say, okay, this is what happened. But if nobody votes and you lose, you say, well, that wasn't right.
Right.
People should have known about it.
Right.
So I want to make sure that everybody votes and I win. And I think we're doing a great job, and my friends are helping me. So thank you all very much.
Absolutely.
But that's the reason why it's June. And I'm hoping that if the Democrats control the state Senate, as well as the Assembly, which they now control the state Assembly, come November, I think the Democrats would be inclined to putting the primaries all together. And I hope I can convince them to do the third week in June or something like that, rather than the last week in June.
Damon J.K. Jones just walked in the building. Now, why, while I understand what you said, and that's a good answer and a good reason, then why only your race and not all of the races? Because wouldn't the people over the same people have the same problem with the other races? Why just your race? Like that's what's confusing to me.
Well, it is confusing. There was a federal law that was passed, which said that the elections had to be held a certain amount of time, and I think that was because of that federal law that the court ruled that the legislature, the judge gave the legislature time to get together and come up with one date. They were going to come up with August and have everybody run in August, just like everyone used to run in September.
Okay.
But to my way of thinking, August is even worse than
right, because it's the end of the year. You try to get out before.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So who knows?
Yeah, but it's still. I'm still confused why they
it's
just
confusing.
Take all the races and put them in June.
Right.
Like, because then at least everyone would know
that's
there's a primary in June.
But the important thing to know right now is that there is a primary on Tuesday, and people need to come out and vote.
Absolutely. David K. Jones, would you like to say a few words to the people real quick? Got a question for the Congressman?
Good evening. Sorry that I'm late. I was at the Kensico Dam handling some business. But welcome, Congressman. Glad to have you on the show. It's the first time you're on the show. Glad to have you on the show. And we announced on Friday, black law enforcement and black and Latino law enforcement organizations throughout the state of New York. We stood behind Congressman Engel and his record of serving the people. And we're going to stand with him on the 26th, and we're going to let everybody know to come out and vote on the 26th for to re-elect Congressman Eliot Engel for Congressman.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And as I said the other day, I'm very grateful. I have a lot of respect for law enforcement people and a lot of respect for people from the community who are in law enforcement. And, of course, we always talk about diversity and how important that is in our multicultural society. And so the organizations that you belong to and the organizations that really keep us safe and keep us moving are diverse and should remain diverse, so people feel that the police or whoever it is are part and parcel of the community, not alien to the community. It's
That's right.
Very important.
That's right.
One of the things we talked about earlier in the show, and I know that you issued a statement and I put it in one of my stories, was this whole thing with the people that have come over here for asylum, the children have been separated. Yes, President Trump has then issued an executive order, but there's over 2,000 something children that are still separated, and there's no plans that I've heard of reuniting them with their parents. And I know that you have a
bill?
A bill or something on it, and I just wanted to get your perspective on that whole thing, because we talked about that earlier, and that seems to be a hot topic in the news right now.
Yes, well, the policy has been under Trump's administration that when parents come to the border of the United States, and usually through Mexico, that the parents and children are separated, and they keep them in separate places. The children are all together, dispersed all around the country, holding them in places, including a place in Yonkers, by the way, that we were at yesterday. They didn't let us in because we tried to get permission from ICE to go in. They wouldn't let us in. They said within the next 2 weeks. So we're going to demand that we're able to get in there. There's nothing wrong with the facility itself. From what I've heard, it's a well-run facility, and they treat the children well. The problem is children should not be separated from their parents, and that is something that I think we need to change right away. So we are fighting that, and hopefully we're going to win. A lot of people are trying to escape their countries in Central America because they fear for their lives. There's a bad element and bad people and good people are trying to flee. Now, some people don't want them in this country, and some people are saying that they're only coming for economic reasons. They're not coming because of safety reasons, which of course is not true at all. And I really just think that when we separate parents from children and do it at the border, it's really nasty and it's racist. It really is. And
one of my problems with the whole situation, I was watching Meet the Press and Kellyanne Conway speaking for the president. The Republican party line right now is that if you are an American citizen and you commit a crime, you are separated from your child and you go to jail. The problem that I have with that, this coming to this country seeking asylum is not a crime.
correct.
So to even compare those two things,
correct.
I don't care how often they say it and how many different people they say it, you cannot get me to believe that it's the same thing. And I think it's a gross mischaracterization of the situation. I know I said the word wrong, but you know what I mean.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And what they're trying to do, it's so obvious, what the government is trying to do is they're trying to make it so terrible that it stops people from coming to the border.
Right.
That's all they're trying to do. And I don't go along with it. I don't think it's right. And I think we need to stop it. And the outrage in this country has really reached a crescendo, and we need to keep on fighting.
Somebody introduced me to this incredible app called Countable, and every time you vote, I get an alert. Your representative Engel voted yes. So I know there's some legislation that you voted on lately, or that you're trying to push through, and I want to give you an opportunity to maybe share that with the people.
What I was doing, because I'm the ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, which means if the Democrats win the majority in November, I'll be the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee.
Wow.
So what I did was
Impressive.
I put someone from right here. It's amazing. So what I did was we have embassies in all three of these countries, El Salvador and the other two countries besides El Salvador. We Guatemala and El Salvador, Guatemala. And so our embassies are under the jurisdiction of the State Department. The State Department is under the jurisdiction of the Foreign Affairs Committee. And so we have American personnel in those countries. We have embassies in those countries. And my bill will mandate that these embassies help facilitate what's ever necessary to get these things processed and to reunite the parents and the children. So that's what we're trying to do.
I've received. They must be cutting down trees. I've received tree loads of campaign literature from your the person running against you, one of the people running against you. I was making all kinds of allegations to you, and then I get another one with you answering it, and a lot has been said from your opponent. Would you like to address any of those things?
Well, we had a debate today.
Yeah, that's where you come. I heard that.
at the college, and there were four of us actually running.
So who's the fourth one? I know it's you, Jonathan Lewis, Derek Lawrence, and I knew we couldn't get the name.
There's a lady. I never heard of her before.
Right. That's we were saying we didn't know who. Again.
All right. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. We just try to inform the people, but that's
okay. So we had a debate before. It's Sarah Lawrence, and it went well. I was pleased with it.
Okay.
It's really easy to trash talk people's records or just flippantly say what you don't know, just kind of talking about it. But I'm a big boy. I've been in this game a long time, and people have a right to run against you. They've got a right to say what they don't like about you, and you've got a right to tell people why you think they should vote for you again. It's worked for me so far. I've represented this district for 15 terms, which is 30 years. And
wow.
As I mentioned before, I'm now, because of the seniority system, I'm now at the point where I could be chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee and have a lot of influence, not only in foreign affairs, but in terms of domestic programs and helping bring grants to the district and things like that. So
yeah, we need that.
Right. So I always say that, we don't want to turn out people who have experience because somebody wants a fresh face. And I've just been running on my record. I've got 3 district offices. We've helped thousands and thousands of people through the years with personal problems or community concerns. I feel good about it. I feel good about my reelection. But you know what? You've got to. This isn't anybody's seat. It's the people's seat, and
right.
You've got to abide by the will of the people. So the expression I always use is that it's a 2-year term, so I get a 2-year contract. And at the end of the contract, I ask the people to renew my 2-year contract for another 2 years. And that's what I'm doing now. My opponent who writes these vile things about me, he is a multimillionaire. He's put nearly $750,000 of his own money into a raise.
Wow.
And then he calls on me to not stop accepting PAC contributions. So I've been saying, not all of us are millionaires, and not all of us can afford to fund our campaigns.
Right.
And the last millionaire, the last 1%er who came from New York, who had no political experience and ran for an office in Washington, was Donald Trump. So
exactly.
We didn't need him, and we didn't need the guy running against me either.
That's good.
Eliot, let me ask you a question. When people speak on seniority and people speak
what I was
on
gonna say too.
The fact that some people have over 20 years that's been in office. What is the average for you to become a senior congressman, right? To head a committee, like what is like the average years that a person would have in office to be able to get that position, to be able to chair a committee like that?
Well, it's definitely 20 or 30 years.
Really?
Or
Okay.
Maybe even with me, it's 30.
Right.
And you sit and you play the game, and then when it gets to be your term, you don't want people who don't have the time in to say, okay, well, we're changing the rules of the game.
Right.
You know, I've been on the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus. They have a lot of them are my friends, and they have a lot, just like me, a lot of time put in to the Congress. You know, spent a lot of terms running.
Right.
And now many of them are like me, about to reach a pinnacle.
Exactly.
And now it's not fair. We played by the rules of the game. You know, 20 years ago, we would have liked to have been chairman, but we knew you had to wait till 30 years. That's just the way the system works.
Right. Yeah.
So we are, you know, it's great to say new blood and sweep out the old and blah, blah, blah. But people better know what they're doing, because you don't want a bunch of people that don't know what they're doing. And in New York, it's very important that we have people who have been around who can make the case for New York. You know, for instance, Donald Trump and the Republicans pass what they call a tax cut bill, and he signed it into law. And he's saying how wonderful it is. Well, if you're a multimillionaire, it's wonderful.
Exactly.
You get a tax cut. If you're a middle class, a working class, or a poor person, you wind up paying more, because if you itemize your deductions, the rules change. They don't let you itemize all the things that you would ordinarily be able to do, which would make your tax burden less. So, and because New York is a high cost of living state, we pay more in New York for rent, for food, for all kinds of things than most people pay all around the country. And so, you know, somebody may be making, you know, $40,000 a year. In some places in the country, they could live, you know, very well. Try living in New York for $40,000 a year.
Right.
You know, so we need people that are going to do right by our state and by our region, and that's why many of us make alliances in the Congress. And we think that right now we're in a place to win, and we're gonna do some good things.
I'm glad that you mentioned the tax cuts, because, you know, I'm a correction officer. I've been there for 28 years. You know, I've been involved in labor. I've been a union delegate, dealt with a lot of labor issues, and when I go to work and I talk to some of those people that have supported Trump, and there's a lot of civil service, right? There's a lot of police unions and union people that are so pro Trump, and I try to explain to them that, you know, what he's doing is taking the power away from labor, taking our collective bargaining rights away. This tax cut that maybe some people, you know, I see a lot of guys saying, oh man, you know, Trump is, but the working class people who we are, civil service, we're getting the short end of the stick of it, but the message is really not getting to a lot of those working class people that are in unions on what's Trump doing to us.
Well, because the problem we find, you know, I come from a union family. My dad was a welder, and he belonged to the Ironworkers Union in the Bronx. And so I grew up with a union family. My dad was on his union's executive board for many years. So I grew up, again, in a labor household. I went with my dad a few times to Pennsylvania when there were strikes there in the steel mills and things like that, walking the picket line when I was, you know, 10 or 12. And so it's very important. We always knew that, my father used to say, the Democratic Party is the party of the working person, and the Republican Party is the party of the rich person. My father used to say that. A lot of people who are working people are voting Republican on social issues. They think that, you know, they worry about their guns, or they or the American flag, or gay people, or whatever it is, and it's ridiculous. They need to, or they would do better for themselves if they voted for the party that cares about decent wage, that cares about labor rights, that cares about how people are treated, that don't think it's right if your boss can summarily fire you, or you lose your job without due process. Those are really important things. So people tend to think, when you belong to a union for many years, you have certain rights. You think those rights are going to be there forever. No, they're not. If people like Donald Trump get their way, he hooks them on the social issues, and then down the line, all their rights will go.
Exactly.
You know, we talked about a tax cut, right? So what the Republicans did with the tax cut was they couldn't pay for it because it was expensive, so they just took it and added to the debt. When we want to add to the debt and have health care, Obamacare, things that really mean something in people's lives. They tell us, oh, we're irresponsible because we're adding to the debt. But when they want to help millionaires and billionaires with a tax cut that they say is for the middle class, which is not, that's okay to go into deficit and to make it harder down the line. We're leaving the debt to our kids and our grandkids.
That's right.
That isn't right. So I find it frustrating sometimes with some of the rank and file who look at some of these issues. You know, they don't want anyone to touch their guns, and they don't want anyone to, you know, those kinds of issues. All right, fine. But you know what? You have a job, you have money in your pocket. Who's fighting for you? It's certainly not Donald Trump.
That's right. Now, and I want to, I just had something else definitely wanted to, because I was doing, I was writing an article because I had seen that there was a report from the trade partnership, and it was saying that the recent tariffs that Trump is trying to put on a lot of these countries, that it actually is we're going to lose from these tariffs a loss of about 400,000 jobs from the tariffs. And you know, he's saying he's creating jobs, but he's only going to create like 26,000 jobs. But the total job market resulting from the tariffs is about 400,000, according to this report that was just.
No, I think we're going to lose jobs, but what's more importantly, we're going to lose credibility and we're going to lose friends.
Right.
You know, the president rants and raves about the Canadian prime minister. Since when, you know, we all grew up, Canada's always been our best friend.
Right,
Since when do we embarrass him? The president embraces the Russian President Putin, who by all means is a bad guy and interfered in our elections and helped get Donald Trump elected. No doubt about that.
Right.
So they're going to be his buddies. So,
And the Koreans.
and the Koreans, he flip-flops. You know, first he doesn't want to talk to this guy, and now this guy's his best buddy.
Right.
And he'll flip back again. You know, so we are through our tariffs and everything else, we're making enemies in the world where we needn't make enemies, and we're taking longtime friends and turning them into enemies.
Exactly.
It just makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Exactly.
Now he just had us pull out of, what was it, the Human Rights Commission?
Right, the Human Rights Commission. They pulled us out of the Human Rights.
Look, the Human Rights Commission in the United Nations is terrible. It's awful. It's anti-West, and they have some of the worst human rights abusers. They use it to beat up Israel. They use it to beat up America, and I don't have any great feeling for them. But the question is, what do you do? What is the best way to do? Do you pull out, walk away like a crybaby and say, we're not going to participate? Or do you stay and fight? I think we're much stronger if we stay and fight. I don't think we should throw our hands up and walk away. So he's walked away from that. He's walked away from the Iran deal. He's walked away from the Paris Accords, you know, the accords for climate change. He's walking away from everything. All the things that have been done over the past, 10, 20, 30 years, everything Obama's done, he wants to get rid of or reverse.
Basically.
It's just amazing. And I can't wait till he's voted out. I mean, I just cannot, it's inconceivable to me that people would vote for him for a second term. And we have all these kinds of things happening with the Mueller probe and investigation. I mean, they've only scratched the surface. I think there's a lot more that's going to come out there. And there's stuff we don't even know that we're going to learn. And I think it'll happen relatively soon this year.
That'll be interesting.
Sure will.
I think there's two investigations that a lot of people.
we keep talking about how the national level and the local level are mirroring each other. You know what I'm saying?
Talk about putting your foot in your mouth.
I think, we go ahead, AJ. You was going to say the parallels, right?
Yeah, we talk about that a lot on the show, how the parallel was going on a local level in the local administration in Mount Vernon and what's going on in the national level.
It's like the same. It's like you're watching the same thing.
The Trump administration and the Thomas administration sometimes, even with the claims of fake news when you challenge them, and then the allegations of what, like Meet the Press was talking about last Friday, Trump, and through the day that Friday, he made 7 outrageous claims that was so
outrageous.
No, so provably false. You know what I'm saying? This is the exact word that the guy used. They were provably false. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you know, he does that, and then if you challenge him, then you're fake news.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And we see that also on the city level too. You know, and you know, so it's just great. It's an interesting parallel. It's almost like they're playing from each other's playbook. Almost. If Richard Thomas didn't get in a year before Trump, I would say he's playing from Trump's playbook. You know what I'm saying? But he was in actually a year before Trump was in. But
let's change the subject. Gail Baxter has a question for him.
Gail has a question.
Yeah.
Hey, Gail, how you doing, Gail? What?
No, right in the thing.
Oh, okay. You want me to?
She can't get through the telephone. She's
Right.
trying to get through the telephone.
Somebody's right now trying to get through.
That's probably her.
Children separated from their parents have been sent to New York State. Approximately 700. A few hundred in Westchester, St. Christopher, and Rising Sun, formerly Lake
and Watts.
It says Seymour. Hold on, I gotta click to see the rest of it.
Rising Sun is where I was yesterday.
It has been reported that 71 million and 80 million, respectively, will be given to each agency. Question: who is responsible to monitor how this money is spent, given the fact that one of these agencies mentioned has a troubled past in caring for children? How were these agencies chosen? What will local stakeholders be able to visit with children? Mayor de Blasio has attached himself to kids in NYC. Who is the point person for Westchester?
Well, those are lots of questions, and
there was a lot of them.
We don't have answers on a lot of them, which is one of the reasons why this whole thing is a mess. This never should have happened in the first place. Children should never have been separated from their parents in the first place. I don't know exactly how many are at the place I was at yesterday, but we hear it's less than 20 in that one place. And what we want to make sure is that children are united with their parents, that they're not going to separate any new kids, but that the old ones that have already been separated, we want them reunited. We don't want them to remain separated. And so that's the thing we're going to be counting on. But those are good questions, and those are all the things that need answers, and we're going to demand those kinds of answers. The reason we wanted to come in, and ICE told us that we would have to wait 2 weeks. We were 3 members of Congress. And, you know, the Congress, we're not supposed to just rubber stamp the president. We're a branch of government that's equal, and we have our oversight things to do, and we're going to do them. So a lot of those questions we'll have answers for. But right now I demand that the policy end. And as I mentioned before, my bill would allow the embassies, our embassies, in those Central American countries to help facilitate the turning over of children to their parents.
I want to comment on that, but I also want to do a little housekeeping. Before you came, I was telling people, before Damien came, when it was just me and Lorraine, I invited people to call in. Once we realized you were here and we didn't have a lot of time, I said I would not take calls, but they can leave comments in the comment section and I will read it, because there's very little time and wanted to give you as much time as possible. That being said, now it made me forget where I was going with that.
People commenting.
No, about the last, what he just said.
Children.
Go on to the next question, because I totally.
What I must have said probably wasn't very good, because
no. I just once I went.
He was thinking about the next question,
and I'm reading all the comments, and I'm trying to address the people at the same time. So my mind's in 20 different things. So,
been there, done that.
Yeah. Anything we didn't ask you? Anybody who wants to know anything about you that does not? Oh, one thing I wanted to say earlier. When I do the show, I always tell everybody I go into this show like it's my first one and my last one. Go into it as like my first one, because no longer how long we've been doing it, 4 years, there's always somebody listening for the first time. And I always do it like it's my last, because, I never know. Nobody's promised tomorrow. There's a lot of first-time voters coming in. They don't know your history. They're not getting, they haven't been in politics. Why should they vote for you? Speaking to them.
Well, I think they should vote for me, because I think I've done an effective job during these past 30 years. I've brought in millions of dollars of federal money into the district. I have 3 district offices, including one in Mount Vernon, that helps thousands of people with personal problems or community concerns. I'm always fighting for New York and fighting the the plans of the Trump administration, as you've heard some of my comments before. I think we need to make things better for younger people. I went to City College. It was actually Hunter College, and it became Lehman College when it was free. And I grew up in a city housing project. I grew up in the Bronx in a city housing project. My dad, as I mentioned before, was an iron worker, and we weren't poor in that we didn't have food, but we were working class to a very large degree. And I think I've proven that if you work hard and you stand for things that are important, you can do well. And I want young people to know that what I was able to do, that they can do it as well. And I try to help as many as I can. And again, I've always been in the community. I've lived in my district I represent till I was from when I was 12. We moved in, and I still live there today. So I still live here today. So I think people should vote for me because they know that I care about them, that the policies I put forward are to help poor people and to help working people, and they're not policies to give the wealthy even more than they have. And that's all you can be. You can be honest and hardworking and try to help people, and that's really what life's all about. So I would tell young people to don't look at somebody's age. Not that I think I'm old by any stretch of the imagination, but compared to a 30-year-old, my kids are 30. My son's 31, my daughter's 37, and my other son is 24.
Right.
So I love young people because they have an energy, and they can help lead the way. They can help certainly lead the way, and they have particular problems. My daughter, who is a lawyer, went to law school, has all this debt from college.
Right.
She can't climb out from under it, and I keep telling her, I don't understand. And she said, every time I pay, it seems like I owe more and more the more I pay.
I can understand
you're paying, the principal never goes down.
That's right.
You're paying the interest.
That's
and
right.
that's, my family is, a million other families out there like that. We have to use government to help poor people and help poor people become middle-class people and help middle-class people become upper middle class. And that's
Absolutely.
what I've always tried to do.
2 quick comments. Councilman Andre Wallace wrote, "A vote for Engel is a vote for progress. Let's move Mount Vernon forward. Everyone show up on Tuesday." And when you're talking about helping people, I almost forgot this. A friend of mine, Tammy Cates, she spoke about when she found out that I was interviewing you today. She told me the story, and she had told me before she had a heart attack or something, and she didn't have insurance, and she couldn't get her medication, and she contacted your office, and I don't know what you did, but she was able to get all the medication she needed, and she was approved for whatever she was, and and she's, you can always tell. I always tell people, I judge people on how they, change the quality of life for people and help people. Well, that's somebody I know who raves about, what you've done for them.
That's beautiful.
Well, thank you. That's that's the third incidents today where someone came up and said to me, "You helped me. Thank you." There's no better feeling in the world than helping people. And let me call
That's
out.
true.
Let me call out to my friend, Mr. Councilmember Wallace, Andre. He is working hard for the people, just like me, and it's great to be his partner in Mount Vernon.
That's great.
We're coming kind of to the close of the show. I want to give anybody who wants to know more about you, websites, how would they contact your office, or where would they find out information that
Sure.
they need before Tuesday?
And what time the polling?
Oh yeah, Tuesday
places are open?
the polling place is open 6 in the morning and they close at 9 in the evening. And I'm the only one on the ballot with my 3 challengers, and I'd really appreciate if people would come out and vote. My district office is on Gramerton Avenue in Mount Vernon. It's on the same floor as Assemblyman Pretlow's. Gary Pretlow and I have offices right next to each other, and we've all formed a great partnership. The elected officials, myself, in Mount Vernon. I'm very honored and pleased to represent Mount Vernon, and really feel a closeness with the people there. It's been my honor for so many years to represent Mount Vernon, and we're going to keep on fighting for people. The best thing you can do, the best feeling you can get, is if you've made a difference in someone's life. I know it sounds corny, but it's not corny.
It's not at all.
Because what's life all about? If you can know that you help somebody, it's really great. You know, I can tell you a quick funny story. The other day we were in Yonkers, and there was a festival there, and you know, when the first job I got out of college, I was a teacher, and I taught in the South Bronx. I taught middle school in the South Bronx, and so I was 9 years older than my students. You know, I was 21 or 22, and they were like 13. I was really something. So this woman comes up to me the other day, and she says, "Mr. Engel," and I look at her and I smile, and she said, I figured she knows me from my work in the Congress, and she said, "You used to be my teacher in junior high school." And I said to her, "Well, do you mind if I ask you how old you are?" And she said 60. And I really felt old. No, only kidding. But it's great to be able to help people, and it's great to when someone thanks you for something. It's to me it's worth
You
everything
get back
in the
tenfold,
world.
they say.
You do, because what's life all about? Really, you know, you watch your family grow. Your dear ones are important. Your friends, and you help people. And if you can help one life, there's nothing more satisfying as far as I'm concerned than doing that. So I'm glad we were able to help her, and send everybody else over who wants to come. We're always willing to roll up our sleeves. I have a motto which says, "No problem's too big or too small." We don't ask you what your political affiliation is. We don't ask any questions. We're there to help. And if you have a problem, we'll roll up our sleeves. We can't promise we'll solve every problem, but we can promise that we'll try to solve every problem.
That's what's up. We're coming to the close of the show. I'm going to leave one last remark. Gail Baxter from Yonkers said, "I will be voting on Tuesday and driving neighborhood seniors to the poll." And she said in capital letters, "Get out and vote, everyone, please." And with that, I'll let that be our last words. You are listening to Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show every Sunday 6 to 8 on intermixradio.com. You could be doing anything else. We decide to ride with us, and we greatly appreciate that. Make sure you tune in next week, where we will have former police commissioner Clyde Isley. Yes, oh wow.
Former police commissioner of Mount Vernon Police Department and former deputy commissioner of Westchester County Department of Corrections, Mr. Clyde Isley, will be on the show. That's the first, right?
Yep, this next week. And I just want to say lastly, at the last minute, we got several questions. I'm sorry there was not time to get to some of them. I will definitely forward them to the councilman's office.
The congressman's office.
Congressman. I said council. Sorry, congressman.
I don't want a demotion.
The congressman's office. And also check out the July issue that will be out Friday.
A very strong issue, I may say myself.
Yes. That's definitely a very big investigative report that you all want to going to read.
Yes.
Again, now till Tuesday, end of day. If you take out an ad and pay for it electronically, you get a 20% discount between now and the Tuesday, end of day.
And let me just I just want to tell all my Republican friends to just come out and vote also on Tuesday. And
it's the Democratic primary.
Is there a Republican primary?
No, to make sure you tell your Democratic friends to come out and vote.
Because I'm independent. I can't vote either.
And I want to tell my people in Latino Empowerment that are watching the show and that watch to the show to please go out there and vote for Congressman Engel. As a Republican, that's what I really meant to say. As myself as a Republican, I'm crossing over party lines to support and endorse Congressman Engel and let my people know that to come out on Tuesday. That's what I meant by saying my Republican people. I meant my Democratic people that are out there and that always look for me for direction.
In closing, Gail, yes, Reggie Lafayette will be a guest speaker at the NAACP tomorrow, meeting tomorrow at the Neppahan Community Center at 7 p.m. With that, we're out. Peace.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.